Present-day agriculture is called conventional, which is a sort of peculiar term given that it's very, very new, and agriculture is possibly 30, 40,000 years old, depending on how you define it. So it's a novelty, what we've got now. A better term, a more accurate term, would be neoliberal industrial, because the whole point behind it, which has been around for about 200 years, is to treat agriculture simply as if it were an industry and designed simply to produce loads and loads of stuff. Economically, you regard it as a business like any other, is the expression. Now, I've got absolutely nothing against business. I think, virtually everything we do should be a business of one kind or another. But around 20-something years ago, no, 35 years ago now, the particular economic system known as neoliberalism took over the world, and that says that the whole point of business, in fact the whole point of life, is to make as much money as possible in the shortest possible time in competition with everybody else. So now agriculture is conceived not as a thing that creates good food for everybody, but as a thing which maximizes profit. You soon find that agriculture has got nothing much to do with producing food at all, certainly got nothing to do with looking after the biosphere, certainly got nothing to do with looking after real human beings living in communities, everything to do with making a lot of money in practice for a few people.
The Just Growth programme is a mixed funding programme which is supporting enlightened agriculture.
Enlightened agriculture is farming that is expressly designed to ensure that everybody in the world is well fed without wrecking the rest of the world. Now, it has three fundamental principles, none of which I thought up. The first is that of agroecology. In other words, you treat all farms as ecosystems and you regard agriculture as a whole as a positive contributor to the biosphere. The second great principle is that of food sovereignty, which says that everybody should have control of their own food supply. And the third great principle is that of economic democracy. Basically, it's a variation on the theme of social democracy, in other words, a mixed economy, etc., etc., but genuinely geared to the well-being of people and the well-being of the biosphere, as opposed to being geared to the simple creation of wealth and profit, which basically finishes up with a few people. So enlightened agriculture, all we've got to do is to make that work.
For me as a social investor, I'm less interested in the financial return. Of course, I'd like my money back. I'd like to get some interest on it perhaps, but I'm much more interested in using my money creatively to make a change in society. And that is called social impact. So it's the change you're trying to achieve, how to measure it, how to manage it, and how to increase it. The fact is that we all need to eat food, and so that's a really good basis for building an enterprise on.
Plotgate's community supported agriculture is essentially a veg box scheme, and so we're trying to create a complete diet from a relatively small area of land and do it in a way that enhances the local ecology, and with this idea that we're going to create a better world for future generations. And by doing it in a low impact local way, that carbon consumption or carbon emissions are kept to a minimum.
So it's a farm that grows vegetables and produces food for its members. They feel part of the farm, that they have a connection with the place and the way that their food is grown, and feels ownership and a part of that. So many people are sort of very detached from those sort of basic processes.
I see it as the most accessible way of creating a sustainable lifestyle by addressing food. So for me, it's creating a sustainable food culture.
The vision at the moment is to get up to 100 boxes in the next couple of years. Yeah, and producing lots of food.
Well, I think these guys are doing very, very good work, so I want to support them. That's the first thing. And I would just like to have a regular source of good local food.
Well, everything we ate from last time we came was absolutely delicious. I mean, and my mother stayed with us, and she never eats organic, healthy food, and she adored it. We went to the open evening and we invested. We were so enthused by it. We immediately said we would do it. We filled in the form and we invested £1,000 because we thought it was just really worthwhile.
Physically, there are definitely easier ways to make your living. Mentally, there are easier ways to make a living, I'm sure. It's quite full on, it's quite exhausting. You do have to be marketer, social media person, accountant and everything. But hopefully as the project grows, there'll be more and more people to take on those roles. But I don't know, it's what I love doing, so it doesn't feel like it's hard.
Amy and Dan, who run Plotgate, are one of that new breed of farmers. They learnt their trade by working at another similar community-supported scheme and have now branched out on their own. And this is exactly the sort of progression that we want to see much more of.
Sacred Earth is a company, a community benefit society that is an umbrella organisation that holds this land project in good stead and allows other micro-industries, rural industries to start benefiting from this space. We have Huffle Farm, which is a biodynamic initiative with pigs and chickens. We have Sacred Seed, a herbal initiative working with herbal medicines. We have willow growing and basket making workshops. We have nature education, and we have a biochar initiative. When I was doing my biodynamic training in 2007 to 2009, I met Roger. Roger's an investor of great things, and we became really good friends. And I showed him around this land and said, what if we were to able to secure this land for community in perpetuity and establish loads of little microcosms in here? That would be, wouldn't that be an awesome thing? And one walk around here, he was sold, and he said, I'll invest, I'll buy the land, but you need to set up a social enterprise to make it happen. I took a gulp. I was like, I've never done that before. I didn't think I had particularly the skill set to do it, but we took a leap in the dark, and we trusted each other, and we just started to roll.
I'm involved because I'm interested in things running beyond my lifetime. So it's not about me. I'm collaborating, I'm assisting other people fulfilling their dreams because they've got dreams and they need access to land, and I've been able to facilitate that. It's brought me so much happiness. That's the reason. Don't do it for any other reason but bringing happiness to yourself and some meaning and watching young people grow. I just bumped into a young man here. He came here, he was a pretty raw kid, you know, pretty rough, constantly smoking. I just bumped into him, hasn't been here for 2 years. He looks like a Greek god, hasn't smoked. His life has completely turned around by him coming and volunteering with Phil. How does that work? So we know the world is in a crisis of sorts. This and other places like this are a resource that need to be shared. That's all. And then it just unfolds. I'm not leading it. None of these projects that I'm involved in, I'm not leading it. I'm just following along and enjoying the ride.
Sacred Earth, for me, has been the opportunity for really cheap access to land, affordability, and community. You know, it kind of means that I have skills, or I'm learning skills in growing herbs. I don't have that many practical skills, and the other people that are here are helping me to fulfill those skills, fulfill those needs. And financially as well, if Sacred Earth didn't exist, my herb garden would probably be a much smaller space, or it would be an allotment, and it would probably be much more of a lonely experience. And that takes it away from the model that I'm trying to create, the herbal CSA model. It's a community model.
It feels really important that people like Roger invest in places like this. He has the resources, we have the energy and the kind of enthusiasm and get up and do and act, and in some ways our team now is a group of change agents, so a group of sort of activists who are not experiencing burnout, they're experiencing empowerment and experiencing joy and life, and our families now growing amongst that, and other families are coming into that, and so they're our future shareholders, they're the people, they're the members that we're wanting to grow into this space. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if we don't do this, then what kind of legacy are we leaving the future generations? And that's a burning question for me. What's the legacy that we're leaving?
One of the pleasures of my work is meeting all these really exciting people with great ideas, trying to make them happen. And I find that journey they're going on really exciting, and I'm someone who will be enthused by them and want to help them. And I think in the food and farming sector, there are such interesting people, such interesting ideas.
Hello, my name is Joe. I'm a member of Hempen, which is a cooperative that is set up to grow, process and sell organic hemp products in the UK. We are currently in one of our fields, which is grown for a crop of essential oil and also the fibre and the herds. So it has many, many uses, this plant. This year has been a great year for sort of learning about the process and learning how we could do it better, but we've also realised that we're leaving a huge amount of potentially very valuable material in the fields because we just don't have the equipment to harvest it in a mechanised fashion.
I don't think an enlightened agriculture entrepreneur is any different from any other social entrepreneur. I think they need money for getting started, for equipment and that start-up period.
Historically, this sector, really struggles in terms of raising money, and as a result, it's been very grant dependent.
This new strand of funding that I've not come across, where you're bringing community investment, loan, and grant money, for me, it's a bit more exciting than chasing grants and saying, "Please give us your money." We're really doing stuff. It seems like an old paradigm there. And a lot of those strands have disappeared. Now, this actually gives the opportunity for the community to invest. So that gives ownership. It gives us more of a drive because we need to pay back the loan. So we have an incentive to meet our financial requirements and have a profit rather than a loss. And it gives us a bit of security with support around grant, knowing that we're not just doing this alone. And I think that's really important, that we're not doing this alone. We feel supported by them. Sometimes you can be doing this and you're meeting resistance all over the place, and feeling supported as a human being is a really big criteria for us, and feeling part of a bigger picture.
There's something, I call it the black hole, some people call it the valley of death. So when you get started, it's quite easy to get a startup award or grant or whatever to get your project going. And for example, the foundations like Esme Fairbairn or the lottery give you money for 3 years to get going. And then at the other end, it's quite easy when you are so-called investment ready to get access to social investment, where people want a bit of security and a bit of return, but they need a proof of business and a business model. So somewhere in between, it's really difficult. And that's where we want to provide support to emerging ventures with loan finance.
We need young farmers to get on board. They need support. They cannot do it alone. We need investors still to support stuff like this, but we need thousands of projects, farms like this.
We have the vision, we have the farmers, we have the way of measuring the social impact, but what we need now is we need more social investors to come with us on this journey to create a whole new landscape for food and farming in the UK. So we need those people to join with us to create a new reality.